From ancient times, Bible translators have never dealt with original manuscripts, but secured copies of originals. To date, it is not clear how many copies each author made of their manuscripts. That is one of the inherent problems of Bible translation. The Bible has 66 books, but the Catholic Bible has an additional 7 books called the deuterocanonical books. These books have different literary styles, including prophecy, historical narrative, poetry, and instruction. The books are intended to address a large audience: children, theologians, believers, non-believers, and leaders. These Bible characteristics, combined with several others not mentioned here, make translation a complex task that requires an extremely careful mind. Dr. Sami Tio, a global translation advisor from Burkina Faso and a linguist fluent in Hebrew, is currently working with the Bible Society of Uganda on the Lusoga Bible project. He underscores the need for a translator to train.
You know, there are 600 versions in English. So out of the 600, which version is going to help you? So that's why we encourage translators to go for the source text. And depending also on the target audience, a version can be done to fit, for example, the level of education of a particular community. That's why you have, for example, Good News Bible, which is, has a style which is a bit different from the King James Bible.
The Lusoga New Testament Bible is available, but several users expressed discomfort with the Lusoga that was employed. The team revising this edition has also included a translation of the Old Testament. The project is in its 13th year now.
You don't change the words, you don't change the meaning, but the understanding of the words, the way the words are expressed. If you look at this English source and they seem not to agree quite well, then you go to the original language, Greek or Hebrew.
Local dialects have a big limitation. They don't have the orthography. There are languages that you can't speak completely. You cannot even count from 1 to 10. Languages are limited.
But because you are dealing with the text, a sacred text, as we usually say, it requires also some understanding in terms of spirituality.
On average, it takes approximately 12 years to translate the Bible into any language. That is to say, 3 to 5 years for the New Testament and at least 8 years for the Old Testament. Translators often begin with the New Testament because its literary style is simple to comprehend. The translators can be 2 to 4. The Bible Society of Uganda has always used 2 to 3 experts for any of its local language projects. The Bible Society spends 1 billion shillings on each translation project.
The church uses more the New Testament. Most people quickly say Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Gospels and Acts, more than going back to Ezekiel. When you are in Ezekiel, when we are in Leviticus, very difficult text. So we start with the New Testament because it is easier.
The scripture that we already have in the mother tongue, when you tell someone, stand up and read, someone will say, give me some time to go through first, to rehearse, before I stand up and read. Now, that little thing is challenging. But we're also asking, for how long shall this continue? And so that's why we are saying this scripture must be completed in the mother tongue, that people's eyes will get used to their language.
Language was a challenge even for early scribers. Some manuscripts had lines with only Hebrew or Aramaic consonants, while others lacked punctuation. This would later impact on interpretation. Punctuation challenges are evident. For example, Luke chapter 23 verse 43 of the New International Version reads thus, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." That was Jesus talking to one of the robbers crucified with him. Early scribers put a comma after the word "you" to mean that on the day Jesus made the statement, he would be with the robber in paradise or heaven. But Jehovah's Witnesses decided early scribers made a mistake in punctuation. In their New World Translation version, they put the comma after the word "today" to mean that Jesus would be with the robber in paradise much later, and not on the day he was crucified with him.
What we are trying to do is to get the language connecting directly to the source, to the Hebrew or the Greek.
Bible translators are careful not to cause confusion. In fact, to have final versions of the Bible, modern-day translators are not volunteers anymore. They do it as a full-time job for which they earn a salary. They have to remain focused, to carefully deal with 31,101 verses of the 66 books, or 35,565 verses of the 72 books of the Catholic Bible. Local language Bibles have been well received. The recently published Lusoga Bible has sold more than 5,000 copies in 2 months. Translated by Father Frederick Chuka and Daudi Waiduba, the project lasted 18 years. The Lumasaba Bible is expected to be ready in less than 3 years. Other ongoing projects include translations in Japadola, Lusamia, Kupsabin, Ateso, and a revised edition of Acholi. The church has proposed Rufumbira, Madi, and Lukonzo to have their versions as well. All this calls for funding, and the Bible Society of Uganda, although it does not have the monopoly to translate, can only depend on Christians in Uganda for financial support. Frank Walusimbi, NTV Talking Arts.